Thanks for showing up. What's important about this slide here, this picture? There's two things.
The cover letter on the resident.
Very good. Some of you know, most of you know that NRCS has a cost share that's available to retrofit a sprinkler to 30-inch centers and put these bubblers on it. We've been using those the last 3 years, and want to thank NRCS for supplying a good share of the cost share on that to get me started and to learn if this was going to work or not. But what you see here is there's not spraying water out here on the plant. We're putting the water right down here where the roots can take it up. The way we set this project up, this is a 240-acre circle. It's these fields out here north and west of town are square half sections. So we've got 240 acres total. We've taken weed out of our rotation. It's getting tougher and tougher to make weed work. So what we've done is we've gone to 3/4 of a circle of corn, and that's pushing our water to right at 3 gallons per minute. And so what, as Harold said, what our focus is trying to maximize the return with the water that we've got available. So we plant this portion, this 60 acres early. This year we didn't get it in as early as what I'd like to, but it was in the first part of May. And then we come back later in the latter part of May and plant the rest of this. And you can see the total irrigation up through today. This part of the field is in black layer, so we're through watering it. But this is about half starts line, so we're probably going to wait and see what happens with the weather. As soon as the sprinkler gets up here, we'll park for a couple of days. Our soil probes say we're in good shape, and see what the weather next week does. Okay, here's how we're using field net to manage the sprinkler. Pivot track can do the same thing. Some of y'all may be using pivot track, but basically we start out early. You can see here's the fallow. The top one there is the three late. You can see we're only watering it at the early part of the season at 7,400s. One reason we can get by with not putting more water on is because we've got the residue and we've got the bubblers that are putting that water down on the ground. And then you can see the 4 and the 5, and then the early corn that we're watering it at 1.15 inches. So we're putting more water on the early corn, less water on the late corn early. And then sometime here we'll pick that up with the AquaSpot probe. Now we switch to the late watering schedule and we just flop it. Now we're putting 7,400s on the early corn, and we're putting 9,200s on the late corn. So we're just still allowing that 3 gallons per minute. That's all it's getting. It's just getting 3 gallons per minute per acre, and then the other two are getting 4 and 5. And so we're pushing that circle clear down to the limit. But one thing that's helping us is, like I say, we're putting this, and there's other people are doing this too. But for me, I used to do wheat corn rotation, basically taking the weed out and trying to concentrate what water we've got available to maximize the profit for the water we've got. Let's go to the 3 early. Okay, for those of you that have AquaSpot probes, what you see when you start with, you see here's the gauge here, gives you a quick glimpse of what's going on, how deep the root system is, how deep the water's going. And let's put the growth stages in there, Paul. And you can see we're getting real close to black layer. We've got this almost completely full. So as this kind of peels down here, the stair steps are the daytime. The little bit of the side is the nighttime where the corn rests, and so we'll use the moisture that's in the soil now to finish the crop off. What I wanted to show you was, you see the lower ones are headed up right here, and the top ones are headed up in this fashion. Here's where we switch the water. Now we're putting more water on the late corn and less on the early corn, but we're still able to maintain the profile so that we've got some profile left to establish the crop. Here in the front, it gets a little bit tricky. We have good Pullman soil, good deep soil that has good water holding capacity. So we want to try to let it root down here in this early part, and then we want to try to build it back up. As you know, this year in July, we had a really, really tough July. Here we had 10 days over 100 and another 8 days over 90. So we were using, see how long these stair steps are? We were using a lot of water here. The ETs and the PETs were very high, and we were just doing everything we could to keep up. If you look back there, you'll see a little bit of tip back in the ears, but we've still got a pretty good, I think we're still going to get a pretty good yield out of that. One thing here, I've argued with Russ and Aquaspy. This line here should be a yellow line instead of a red line, but as Russ says, this is to protect the crop. When you know you're getting down here, it's not the end of the world, but we are losing some, we're putting some stress on the plant, and this is a caution here. And then we start getting some rain here. Compared to last year, this field had about 12 inches of rain during the growing season. This year it had a little over 5. So what happened last year, and Leon will get into that, is just flip-flopped. The early corn last year was our best corn, and the late corn was not as good. We started good, but then we had some problems. The yields aren't what I thought they would be. I picked this ear the other day just to show you what happened last year. We don't know what it was, but at some point there toward the end of the growing season, we went from black layer, we went from 2/3 starch line to black layer in 1 week. And when you do that, you lose all of this. This ear should have twice the weight it has in it. These kernels get shrunk up and they're like loose teeth. And I'll pass that around, but Goss's wilt, sudden death syndrome, southern rust. We don't think it was rust. We had 2 agronomists look at it, and we're not quite sure what happened, but this is what happens. The plants completely, they died. There's not any moisture in the stalk, and this is kind of a representative of what happens. This can also happen when we've got really good yield potential and we shut the water off too early, and we don't have enough water to kind of finish it out. So that's why we're dependent on the soil probes. But I'll pass that around. That ear should be twice that heavy. Actually, we can't pinpoint it to irrigation. According to the probes, there was nothing out of line as far as the irrigation. But Leon and Curtis noticed it. He called me, "What's happening to that field? It's turning yellow." And well, could it be rust? Well, there wasn't any rust that I could detect. We did have, according to the agronomist, we did have some southern rust in this part of the county last year. Goss's wilt, sudden death syndrome, but something caused that plant to just completely shut down, and it just died. And so this year everything's looking a lot better. We've had some heat early, but then we got some cool weather. And what's going to be interesting to me is to see how much starch and how much weight did we actually pack into those kernels with our good weather that we had the latter part of August, where it cooled off and started getting some rain. We've got a yield contest back there for those, if everybody take a guess. Those are representative ears out of the field. You can see there's some tip back on there. I didn't get just the biggest ears. There's some ears that aren't tipped back, but that is a representative sample. And I believe our yields are going to be as good or maybe better than last year. That's all I've got. Are there any questions? Leon is going to talk about the 3-4-5 program out on this field last year and the others in the district. Yes.
Your bubblers on 30.
Yes.
Are you planted in a circle?
Yes.
So the nozzles are staying down before
Yes.
the road? Okay.
And we always hear about track management. You know, we can't shut off because our tracks are full of water. We shut that one off over the track. So we're 30 inches away on either side, and sometimes we get on, sometimes we don't. We try to stay where the track's going to take something out here regardless.
Will bubblers work on the 60s?
Bubblers will work on 60s, we think. Leon will get into that, but you may have trouble getting the crop up. On this 30, we stay in bubblers. We don't go to the spray mode. If we have to go to the spray mode, you don't see that there, but we use the green pad with the tan insert. And the reason we use the green pad is because that throws the water more out and down. Where on 30s, you don't need that water shooting up like the blue pad does to get it to cover the full 60 inches. So if we do go in the spray mode, we're spraying that water out and down, and so we use the green pad with the tan insert. But the first year we sprayed to get the chemical incorporated. The last 2 years we've not sprayed. We've stayed in the bubble mode the whole time. So I'll turn it over to Leon.
To be sure we're all on the same page, the 3-4-5 program is the same thing as nozzling a sprinkler at 3 GPM per acre, excuse me, which for 120 acres is 360 gallons a minute. The 4 is 480, and the 5 is 600. And that's what we're doing with these sprinklers in the project that the water district set up. And we do that by variable rate speed control, which Danny went over with you on the field net that manages, controls his. This is all programmed on a prescription. And when the pivot goes from 3 GPM to 4, it slows down to put on inch 49 equivalent. And it goes to the 5 GPM, it slows down again, puts on 182 for a week. This is all set up on a weekly irrigation at 3, 4, 5 GPM per acre in a week's time. So the circle is the pivot's making a circle in 1 week, approximately. Now Danny speeded up a little bit on his because he had to reverse, but the equivalent inches is the same, and his 3 GPM is split between the 3 early and the 3 late. Okay, as far as the summary goes for 2016, what this shows is a summary of all the field locations, and it's ranked from the yield per inch of irrigation. It'd be the middle. Now it'd be bushel spread per inch of irrigation. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 from the right, 17, 18, 19. That ends also by grower and by the field. This puts all of the growers with their 3, 4, and 5 GPM per acre together. In other words, Danny had his 3 early, was planted April 25th. There's a hybrid. The seeding rate 29,000, and we get bushels of 231 with 11 inches of irrigation. The bushels per acre inch of irrigation, which is one of the things that's important in managing irrigation, is 1762. You had 60 acres, corn as LIPA, as you see. And then the 3 GPM planted May 30th, 29,000, excuse me, it's 26, 29, 33 for the 3, 4, and 5, and then our yields weren't, his yields weren't a lot different because of the plant diet. He had a great yield out there, but we lost it. And that's the way it ended up, different acres over there, that's the LIPA. Harold's next, in the ranking there is 3 GPM, and Harold runs a double set, a little different than Danny, where Danny splits the early and late planting. Harold has 2 different irrigation systems. One's the T&L portable mobile drag lines, and if you have any more questions on it, Harold's here and he can tell you that. But he had a LIPA, which actually this picture that Danny showed you was made in his field. And Danny's is the same way. But that's the PMDI's portable mobile drip irrigation. He's planted in a circle. That's his planting dates. May 25th, all the same hybrid, all the seeding rate, the main difference. And he's got about 2.75 GPM per acre, not quite 3. And 216, 200, 198, you can read across there, total water, return, the bushels, and then the bushels per acre inch of irrigation is all in there. The PMDI in this sprinkler is in span 6, and so when the sprinkler goes over it, it gets the same treatment as he harvests in span 6 different. Then the LIPA, it's the feeding rates, and you can see his yields are right at 200 bushels with 13, 14, 15, 16 inches of irrigation. Bushels per acre inch of irrigation, 15 and 12. His acres, it's the LIPA as well. And then the next is Stan Spain at the Water Center in Eder. We put subsurface drip, the district bought subsurface drip, and it's between the 2 center pivots. We run the 3, 4, and 5 by zone control. Our zone control is actually by field net as well. And that shows you the 3, 4, and 5. We just did a zone for each of the 3, 4, and 5, and it was run similar to the center pivot. And you see 191, 211, 246, 14, 15, 17 inches of irrigation. And the 2.343 acres is one zone of the 39 acres of subsurface drip. Zach Yoder used what we call a Lisa. He put on more water, and his yields are, he used 32,000, 36, and 38,000, made 203, 239, and 252. Irrigation was more, as you can see there, but his production per inch of irrigation was less. And then Stan Spain's LIPA at the center. It's not the bubble, it's not the shroud, it's the original bubble LIPA. They have 2 sets, Senator does, and that's his though, there, 195, 217, and the 260 was actually the highest yield of the locations in 2016. Okay, the other one we put in there for, just to kind of go over with you what, this is rated on total water in inches and net return per inch of total water. That's rainfall and irrigation and soil water. We do gypsum blocks in these fields, and therefore we can get the net soil water from planting, excuse me, from planting until black layers, the way we do that. The rainfall is also from planting to black layers, or harvest, whichever, but it's basically black layers. So you can see the net soil water is there just to the left of the total water. And the way we do that is with NRCS's total water holding capacity, which we found to be very reliable in both the 212 project that occurred previous to the 345. And you can see there that if you look down, there's lots of data in these two handouts. If you want to really dig down and see what really happened in these fields, study this. Because what I've seen, for example, in Zach Yoder's, his net return was more from the 4 GPM than the 5. And we do a net return per acre and a net return per total water. And the net dollars that he ended up with was higher in the 4 than it was in the 5 in 2016. And you see the others there. And those are in the printed booklet. You don't have them, but I'm just going through that. It was interesting to me to watch that because we see a lot of push for big acres, big yields, but sometimes that doesn't return the best dollar. The district went to the 345 project. We saw some overwatering in the 212 with 4 and 5 GPM per acre. But this is ranked here, total water in inches and net return per total water from highest to lowest by field, by field and GPM. So over on the right you can see $14.31, and the district uses, and the way the project is set up is this is $3.44 per bushel, and that comes from the insurance beginning and ending insurance rates. That's the average of the two. The way that's set up, and all the projects have had that in it. So we may not have quite the yield or the dollars per bushel that you got, but they're all the same, represents the same. And then the total water, see, it varies. One of the things I've seen in this, we can make 200 bushels of corn with 24 inches of water. If you can manage it right, get it on there. I've seen that throughout the project. And you see these are ranked from high to low on net return. And the way we do that, everybody gets the same dollar for his irrigation. In the 212 project, the 345 for 2016, we used the irrigation cost based on the number of inches they put on at the same cost per acre inch, same cost for the fertilizer is based on the yield provided, Better Harvest provides that. And then the seed, by the seeding rate, the four different items that we use to project production costs are irrigation, fertilizer, seed, and harvest. We don't go into land cost or equipment cost because that's all over the board and we don't go there. So this is a summary of what the project did in 2016, and like Danny said, this is the last year. We got some good yields out there. Actually, the west part of the district has got more rain this year than over here, and last year it was in reverse. And that's kind of the way things go. Any questions?